I need to swear you in. You solemnly swear to tell the truth tonight and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, now go ahead.
I'm not sure. Do you have questions for me? I'd like
Well,
to.
what we normally ask is for you to do a verbal review of what it is that you're asking, and then questions would be generated from the board with that.
All right. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Essentially, my wife and I have been here for a short period of time. I'm a longtime resident of Ravenna from the past, but I entered the military, and now I'm back in town.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Part of the reason we need a larger shed is, quite frankly, my mom and dad's house, which we now live in, is just too small, and I need to be able to put what they call Can-Am motorcycles, 2 wheels up front, geriatric machines in a safe place where the public doesn't see them and keeps the neighborhood looking good. To put it in a 12 by 12 shed, which the city currently allows, is not going to be sufficient. Therefore, we looked at different floor plans of sheds. I provided you a sample of one that we found that would be acceptable, which is 12 by 20. I spoke with my neighbor whose yard is running in back of mine, and she said, quote, quite frankly, I don't care if you put it right on the property line. What you do in your yard is your business, and I appreciated that attitude. The neighbors to the left and right of me are police officers, and they haven't made any comments or come by to say anything. But I know from Allison, or she has a different name on here, but she goes by Allie. She indicated that she had received a letter from the city of Ravenna and wasn't able to make it tonight. My wife would be here, but she's got a medical condition that prohibits that. She's in a wheelchair.
Oh, no problem, as long as there's somebody here to explain and we understand the obstacles.
So what we're looking for is to try to go back as far in the backyard as possible and be within 5 feet of her property line, so I can still get in back of the shed and paint it in case someday she says, I don't like you anymore. And then, of course, the 20-foot would be just the extra we would need to put things. So one day she's not going to be in that wheelchair, and I'll need to put that out there to give an example.
Okay.
We're very neat people. We don't get problems with the city at all. Jerry knows me a little bit. So I ask that you approve the request.
Is that your old family house?
Yes, my mom and dad's. It was a secondary home until recently. We have a home in Burleson, Texas, but I gave it to my daughter because it made sense to try to help somebody out.
I got a question. How are you going to get that trailer back there?
I talked with Allison, the neighbor in back.
The one in the
and
back?
She's
Gotta
going to
go through
give
there.
permission for it to go through there.
Because those lots,
Floor.
they look like they're about 50 foot wide, and your trailer, I don't know, I was looking at it, I thought, how the heck they gonna get, it's a cute house. But I was wondering how they get that trailer around the back.
Well, it'll go through Spruce Street to the side yard of Ellison, and then I've already taken out the bushes, and they need about 14 feet to get into the backyard.
So if you store the trailer back there in this proposed shed, which will be big enough, then you're gonna come in and out that way too, through the grass of
No,
the neighbors?
I went to the left of the garage, and the
Yeah.
bike width will permit me to stay within the property line to get back there.
Okay.
We ripped out a lot of beautiful bushes in the past week.
I went back there and looked. Okay. So that's why I need the 8-foot variance on the shed size. That's where we're going with that, because he has that trailer.
Yeah, there's 2 variances that are being requested.
I was just addressing the one, because I didn't know how to get the trailer back there. The houses are with the size of the lot.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Larry?
This aerial photo we have, the next to the last document, makes it look like you've been driving across the back of the property at 222 Stevens, next door on the south side of you. Is that correct?
222 is, I guess that's a house to the left of me.
Well,
up
standing
until-
on the street facing your house, it would be the house on the left.
That's
Right.
correct.
You appear to be driving across their backyard.
No. There's a fence there, and the bushes that were there prevented me from even traveling on that until about 4 days ago.
Okay, I'm just looking at the tracks on this picture. You want to
That
come
picture's mighty
and
old.
show me which way you're going to access that?
He's gonna come in while Spruce, right?
Right, no,
Oh, Spruce is
shed
way
is.
over here somewhere.
we'll access that.
How's he get back?
It looks like
She
you've
said
been
there's
driving
lots, so
across
we can
here.
get that
No,
trailer
that's a
back there.
bush there. That's now
See what
gone.
I mean?
We were there, it looks like tire.
We were there, I walked back there.
Well, back here, when we tore the bushes out, we had an excavator come in, and they did come.
Did
through
you
that.
see that?
Oh, all right.
Did
Now,
you
how
see
are you
that
going
since
to
he
reach
tore the
this?
bushes out?
Spruce is over here.
Right.
How are you going to get there?
Trailer's so
Come up the spruce, now he is.
You have to go through the neighbor's yard, in the back, not out front, can't get through it.
All right, this person's yard. Is that right? This one back here.
You understand what the
Yeah.
problem is?
There's Wendy's over there, and she has a whole, like a double lot back there.
Okay. Have we received any communication from any of the neighbors? Thank you.
Everybody understand the layout and the access and ingress and so forth? Any other questions?
Last page.
So we have two requests for variances. I'll entertain a motion for the shed size, 8-foot variance to allow him to build a 12 by 20 shed.
That one.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to give the 8-foot variance for the shed size that you requested.
Second.
okay. Further discussion on the motion? Those in favor of the motion, roll call, please.
Vince Barnes,
Yes.
Clark Magditch,
Yes.
Ken Porcase,
Yes.
Jerry Keyser,
Yes.
Tim Thomas,
Yes?
Larry Salinas,
Yes.
Richard Miller.
Yes.
Okay, the second one has to do with the rear setback, and you're asking for a 5-foot variance there. And what you've indicated with your testimony is that the neighbor there said there's no problem on things.
That's correct, sir.
Okay? Questions on the rear setback? Mr. Wood? Is there a motion to allow the variance? Okay, Jerry, is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Vince? Further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Larry Salinas. Larry Salinas.
Yes.
Clark Magditch,
Yes.
Ken Porcase.
Yes.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
Tim Thomas,
Yes?
Vince Barnes,
Yes.
and Jerry Keyser.
Okay. You're good to go. You'll see the building department line up everything. So, but good luck with the shed. Again, thank you for your service.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Brandon Brewerly. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay. Brandon, if I could swear you in first, I'll do it right this time, okay? You solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, if you could state your name and address and then explain your request.
Brandon Braley, 1002 Overlook Avenue, Ravenna, Ohio. I put a privacy fence in my yard. I am on a corner lot, so they can technically consider it 2 front yards. The front and the side is 4 feet tall. The back 3 panels from the back corner of the house to the street are 6 feet tall. The house behind me has been empty for 10 years. No tenant has lived there. I've heard from my
You're
neighbors.
good. I don't know if it's just me, but you're gonna have to speak up so we can hear you clearly and slow down a little too.
The house behind me has been empty for 10 years. I've lived there for almost 3 years, and no one's lived there. Some people come in, they do something to it every once in a while, and then you don't see people for a year. There's holes in the roof. There's animals in the backyard. There's cats in the garage that have cats and cats every summer. I have dogs. My dogs have been sprayed by a skunk that lives under the shed back there, probably 3 times. My dogs need a yard to run around in. If it's see-through, they're just gonna bark and annoy the people walking by them as much as it would annoy me as them barking. I'm a young homeowner. I'm just trying to make my house look better. As you can see by the pictures, it looks a lot different than it did when I bought it. So I'm asking for a foot variance on the front and the side, and then a 3-foot or 2-foot variance on the back.
Okay? Questions from the board?
The people that are in the gray house across the street, have you any problem with that gray house? I think it's number 436.
436, the great. I'm the only gray house on the road. There's a tan house across from me. Yeah, that's that blue house that's empty.
Oh, okay.
So
Who owns that one? Is that,
last I heard of it, it was Ian Watson and Deborah Watson. And Ian Watson actually came over on my property and was throwing my stuff around.
I
when he
thought
was-
somebody told us when we went down and visited that Dragos were over there cutting the grass. Is that true? I don't know. That's what
I have no
somebody
idea.
said.
The neighbors are right there.
I didn't catch that.
On the neighbor list, is
Yeah.
it somebody on here? Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so, yeah. We talked to him when we were down there. He was cutting the grass.
I also have letters that you can see in there from other neighbors around me who don't have a problem with my fence. They think it's a nice addition. There's
We
a
probably
neighbor
talked
here
to this guy.
tonight that will support me in this.
Is that who we talked to?
He lives right across the street from the fence too. He's on that list too, I think. Roger.
That must be who we talked to, I guess.
Yeah, he was
I
cutting the
couldn't
grass
see
when
him.
we were
I
outside.
just heard you talking, sorry. I remember talking to him, now I can see it. Okay.
I had William and Dorothy Griffith contact me at my office, and they were opposed. They didn't give a reason. They were just opposed.
Was it because of the 6-foot fence that extends behind there? Because he has that 6-foot fence that's extending back behind
Yeah,
there.
they didn't give a reason, and I asked them why they were opposed, and they said, we just don't like the look of it. So,
You're up.
Do you know which neighbor it was?
It's 10, 11.
1011 Overlook,
Is that right across the street from me?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never talked to them. They're an older couple. They don't really come outside. I know their daughter lives right next door too, so.
Yeah, and they kind of threw her in on the,
Yeah,
The call,
I figured they would.
but there wasn't any specifics other than they just didn't
They
want
just,
it.
yeah. I don't think they like me because I'm so young and I made my house look like the way it is. And I don't think that,
Technically speaking, he has 2 front yards and 2 side yards, right? No
That's
backyard.
correct.
So I'm concerned about the house on the north side, that the 6-foot fence is blocking the view out of the windows.
it's 20 feet back from the road. So,
I
on
personally
that side road there.
think that that should not be allowed between the frontage, the building line, and the sidewalk or the street, whatever you
So
There
that's a
is
want to call it.
6-foot
That should
fence.
only, yeah, that we should not allow a 6-foot fence out
It extends to, you saw that, where it goes 6 foot.
from the building
get a-
line
they didn't
out
get a
to the
variance for
street
that, did they?
on the north side. If you look at the pictures,
So they want a variance.
I think we have one in here.
That's what they got.
Yeah, there is a picture.
I th-
There is no sidewalk on that side street either, so
There-
they're from the road and
Somewhere there was a, oh, here we go. Yes. If you look at your color picture on a Ravenna page, you can see what in the picture is the right side fence being 6 feet high, blocking the view from that house to the right, which is, in the picture, looks kind of black, the house, but you can see that fence is up above the windows. I think that should come down to 4 feet from the building line out to the sidewalk or out to the edge of the fence, wherever it is there. So in my opinion, we would give him a 1 foot variance only, but not the 3 foot variance. I believe that permits him to still have the 6 foot fence from the building line back heading west. Is that correct, Bob? Yes, so you just have to shorten that little section from the building line out toward the street.
Larry, if you turn one page back, you could, in essence, draw a line between the east side of his house and the east side of the next house. And that
Yes.
would establish the front yard
Yes,
of, and what you're stating is from the corner of that house to the street be no higher than 4 feet. He's asked for 6 feet, and you're stating that you would approve a 1 foot variance to allow a 4 foot fence,
yes, like the
Correct.
rest of the fence. We would
like
approve
the rest of the request.
the 1 foot variance for the whole fence.
Okay,
I
well,
don't think we need to do two
yeah, there's gonna have to be two.
separate sections.
There's gonna have to be two votes,
Yes,
yeah. Okay,
but if we give him a 1 foot variance, it would apply to that section.
okay. Other questions, comments? I'm gonna take the 1 foot variance first because that's, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't see it. If you could state your name and your address, please.
My name's David Braley. I'm his dad. My
Okay,
address is 245 Liberty Street. The only thing I have to say is, I know Sharon that lives directly across the street from the blue house, black house, gray house, whatever color you want to call it. The house has been empty for over 30 years. Hasn't just been 10 years, it's been 30 years. It's got holes in the roof that are this big. The house is full of mold, black mold. It shouldn't be condemned and tore down, in my opinion.
It's been condemned.
It should be tore down. So the fence really shouldn't matter. That's
Okay.
my opinion. Thank you.
sure. Larry?
Well, if it is torn down and somebody else builds on that lot, they're not going to want their view blocked by that 6 foot fence.
Fair enough.
They haven't owned it.
Telsa shows Krupp owns the property, but that would be Anthony Drago and Telsa Krupp, or Crop, is it Krupp? That own that property, that's who owns it. That's what I didn't know.
I have pictures of that yard too, of how the backyard looks, how the front yard looks. There's bathtubs and sinks laying in the driveway.
That's why Anthony Drago was over there cutting the grass. That's what the neighbor told me.
Well, okay. Well, I'm gonna ask if there's a motion to approve a 1 foot variance. I guess we'd be looking at the south fence, or the fence on the south side of the property? Is that what we'd be looking at for the 1 foot?
It applies to all of them.
And then,
Well,
well,
so the first variance would be for the south fence and the east fence.
okay, all right. So I added half right. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the 1 foot variance on the south and the east side of the fence.
So moved.
Okay, Clark, is there a second to the motion?
Second?
Okay, Larry. Further discussion on the motion? Roll call? Sure.
So this is the fence that's the 6 foot and
No, it's the 4 foot. It's
the 4 foot one?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's this one and this one. Okay.
yeah, it's the south and east. side.
Okay, got it. Okay. Alrighty. Jerry Keyser.
Yes.
Ken Porcase. Yes. Dr. Miller.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes?
Vince Barnes.
Yes.
Larry Salinas.
Yes.
And Clark Magditch.
Yes.
Okay, there's a second request for a 3-foot variance to make the fence 6 foot, and that would be on the north side, right? What we're talking about, the north side of the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct, I'm sorry.
Okay. And Larry, this is where your question comes in as far as 6 foot and, your
Yes, I don't think we should do that.
okay. Other comments, questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to grant the variance.
So moved.
Okay. A second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Just a point of clarity, is this for the variance as written or with Larry's amendments?
This is for the variance as requested.
As written, okay. Then yes. Thank you.
Yes.
No.
All right, variance was granted. Both variances are granted.
Thank you. Thank you for your guys' time. So, do I just get a permit now? Go up to the department, get a permit from you? Okay.
Yeah, contact the building department in regard to that.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay. The next item up is Greg and Eve Francis, and Doc, you can take this seat, or you can conduct it from there, or however you want to do it.
Mr. Francis and Mrs. Francis, come to the microphone, please. Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, all the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
That applies to both of you, even though you didn't raise your hand. Would you explain to the board what you're requesting, please, Mr. Francis?
Yes, Eve and Greg Francis. We live at 558 Coolman Avenue, corner of Coolman and Freedom Street. And we have on our property currently a chain link fence that runs south to north, and it also runs west to east in front of our house. It also runs across the back of our property, east to west, back of our property as well, and then south to north up to the corner of our backyard. And I don't know if you have, do you guys have the pictures?
We have that.
So I provided pictures, I circled and highlighted. As you can see, we have a neighbor who has a large shed there to the west of our property, west of our chain link fence. And then to the south of that, you can see we have the fence, the privacy fence there. And what we're asking is that chain link fence that's already been pre-approved, it's been up for years, to attach to that chain link fence, not any higher than it already is, which is 4 feet. We had the
4 foot.
variance already
Right.
approved before. We're just asking you to attach some privacy panels, not vinyl like that, just some like cloth panels that they pre-sell along that line up into the corner there. And then the piece that goes west to east there is gonna stay chain link.
That, is that the privacy fence? We've got a picture of one here, is that it?
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like, yeah.
That's this one here?
Privacy screen.
It's a screen.
Fabric, that's waterproof and weatherproof.
Yeah.
So we don't need a variance because you've got the 4 foot already. We just want a privacy screen like they've indicated in their photos.
Right, and
Okay.
Mr. Finney brought to my attention that there was something in the current ordinances or whatever that.
Well, yeah, that's because
preventing
the
slats
fence-
or
The fence now you can see through with the privacy fence, that makes it more
Yeah.
private.
And
Someone, one
we've
of the
gone up to-
neighbors, one of the neighbors said were you gonna put a pool in there? Is that the
No.
reason for it?
No,
And then we talked to Sandy Forrester, that's the lady that lives behind you.
she's to the west of us, yes.
Yeah, and she was fine with it. I don't know if you got any letters, Tiffany, or anything like that.
Maureen and Mark Gebhardt also support it. She was intending to be here, but had another commitment, as well as Jason Smith. He
Okay.
also supports that. He lives, I guess it would be south. He's our south neighbor.
Okay,
And of course, Bethel Baptist. Pastor David Ballard.
I know him.
And our neighbors across the street. So,
Okay.
And we've even, as the pictures show, we've gone up Coolman to the west, looked, east, and made sure there's gonna be no problem with traffic, seeing stuff like that.
Sure.
Everything's fine, because we had that setback initially on the fence as it is, so.
So you're talking about the fence, next to where Daniels used to live?
Yeah,
The one on Freedom Street too, or just that?
no, just that piece right there we circled on the picture.
So you're still gonna have your nice swing back there, showing?
Yes, we are.
We don't have a street on a hill. We don't have a sharp curve. There's definitely clear visibility and plenty of frontage, which we had already passed when we applied for the
Right.
chain link fence.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Any other comments?
Do I understand you're only doing the west side?
Correct. The piece that's circled in the diagram that we provided in red, we highlighted in the circle there. Everything else remains
So
changed.
just from here to there.
Any other board questions? I'll entertain a motion to, at this point.
Doc, you've got somebody in the back there that
Go ahead. Paul?
My name is Paul Moskin. I just want to say I've worked all over town for many years, including this area, probably hundreds of times. And this does not prevent any type of visual obstructions from any direction. I just
Okay.
wanted to mention that.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for this. What do you want? State the motion exactly.
As proposed.
As proposed, okay,
Panels up on the fence.
okay. Second? Okay, Kenny. At this point, I call for the vote. Jeff?
Vince Barnes,
Yes.
Larry Salinas,
Yes.
Clark Magid,
Yes.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
Ken Forkes,
Yes.
and Jerry Keizer.
Yes.
we'll just have the minutes reflect I'm abstaining.
At this point, you can go to the building department and get whatever you need. Talk to
Thank you.
Tiffany, will go over there.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice job, thank you. At this point, we'll turn the meeting back over
Thank you.
to Tim.
All right. The other business that we have tonight, Cynthia Miller has asked to appear and provide some comments on some things, and so, and I'll do the same thing that I've done with the people who've proposed variances and so forth. I'll ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State your name and address, and then fire away.
My name is Cynthia Miller. I just lost my glasses. I live at 727 East Main Street, and I'm here at the request or the direction of Rod Karas of the Ravenna City Council. You may have all received a message from him today in your email at the council meeting before last. After going to many, many council meetings and trying to go to planning commission meetings and have my concerns heard, he told me during the meeting that I needed to go to the BZA. I've looked up the appropriate ordinances, and we'll go over that later if you don't mind, but hopefully you can help me. I want to read into the record the same thing I read into city council's record. I believe the Reed Memorial trustees, their contractors, and the city of Ravenna's administration have violated ordinances of the city of Ravenna, specifically zoning ordinances. This is the same information to be found in my June 11th emailed letter to the administration and to council and copied to the Record Courier. Number one, ordinance 122004. The library project is on property zoned R4. Both the new gazebo structure and the new entrance to the parking lot at the corner of Elm and Locust Street are subject to obtaining a conditional zoning certificate. The Planning Commission is required to ensure that any plan submitted for approval must follow all zoning ordinances. Ordinances 127402 6 and 127402C2, as required on the application for the conditional zoning certificate. The library was required on its application to list the names and addresses of all the contiguous property owners, as well as all the property owners across the street. The Planning Commission is required to notify all contiguous property owners and all property owners across the street. The library did not provide the Planning Commission with those names, and the Planning Commission did not give notice to any of the surrounding property owners. The Planning Commission did not hold a public hearing at all. It just voted an approval recommendation at a regular meeting without public input. And just a note on that, we had three of the administration officials, two of the administration officials and Rob Karras get together and said that it was deemed to be a conditional certificate. I have the receipts. I have the paperwork from 2002 and 2003. There was never a conditional permit issued for that property, so they can't piggyback on that. There was only a zoning variance for parking spaces asked for and received for the original project. Number three, ordinances 1274-04 and 1274-04B, G, and I allow as conditionally permitted use a library project or playground. The library has many times stated that the reason for putting the gazebo structure back there is to effect training for gardening and children's programming. That's the intended use of this. Library structure is required an 8-foot setback from Locust Lane property line and a 7-foot from the Dominion East Ohio substation property line. If you've ever been back there, it is exactly that, 7 and 8. That is what they have. They are required both to have a 25-foot setback, those buildings back there. Ordinance 127404, the new south entrance into and out of the parking lot at the corner of Elm and at the entrance to Locust Lane must be at least 100 feet from that intersection. Again, two members of the administration and the city council president wrote me a letter that said that accordingly, the Planning Commission could have less than 100 if it was not considered to be a hazard. If you look at the map I gave you, that's the original map that was submitted to the Planning Commission. That's not what they built, but that's what they submitted to the Planning Commission. And as you can see, that is a hazard. That new entrance off of Locust Lane and right off of Elm is directly behind the American Legion building. All the traffic now from Main Street coming down the library into the library's book drop, all of the library's traffic coming in from Main Street now comes down Locust Lane, and everything comes to converge right at that point. That is a hazard. So two people from the administration and Mr. Karras telling me it's not a hazard, it just doesn't work. They never asked for or received a variance for either of those things, either the 25-foot setback or placing that entrance at the bottom of Locust Lane. I don't know why there was such lax enforcement on those. We have the mayor having served on the BZA for 25 years. We have Bob having served on the BZA for 14 years, he told me, 25 years in service to the city of Ravenna. I don't understand. I've watched 2 meetings now where you've come up with regulations and rules governing what's happening here and what's happening at the Planning Commission, but there's no rules or regulations governing this for some reason. I don't understand that. According to 126203, violations, inspections, and conditions, I'm required as a resident to report any violations to the city, and the administration of the city of Ravenna, of which Bob would be a member, is required to inspect and order corrections. No corrections have been issued. I had a letter written by Rob Karras, which I can copy to all of you, outlining what their position on this is. I'm sorry, I have the receipts. I have the original. I sat in Bob's office with Tiffany for probably 2 hours and went through all the paperwork from those years ago. It was never granted variance, it was never granted a conditional approval, ever, didn't happen. One of the things that I do, and this comes to where you may be able to help, I would rather have the BZA and my neighbors here in Ravenna help with this situation, rather than having to hire an attorney to go after the library and the city of Ravenna and the contractors that built this. If you check in your book, you all should have your zoning books with you. And look under 126405, witnesses. The chairperson of this committee can subpoena witnesses for any matter before the board, and I'm before your board. You could ask Bob, you could ask the mayor, you could ask the members of the planning commission, you could ask the contractors that built this, you could ask everybody involved that did not pay attention to these ordinances, why? You can do that, you have that power. Once you find out why, you probably can't do anything about it. They have to refer that to city council, and city council would have to take action at that point. But you can subpoena those witnesses. As far as them getting a variance at this point, if you, again, go over to third page in your book, board may, under proper consideration, permit variations, drop down to C, and carrying into effect its powers to grant a variance, the board shall be guided by the following criteria. Next page, number 4. Any difficulty or hardship constituting the basis for a variance shall not be self-created. I've been after this since last summer, more than a year. Every single problem that we're having, every single variance that we violated is self-created, either by the library, by their contractor, by the city administration, or the planning commission. Every single one. I would ask that you not grant them a variance. Thank you. And by the way, they haven't ever asked for variance. They should have last year, and they did not. If there's any way you can help, I would appreciate it.
Well, I guess I'll kick off the discussion here on things. Whether the board as a whole or the board individually agrees with your position, I do not see a basis for this board being able to do anything proactively. We are a body that has jurisdiction under 126408 to determine appeals from the actions of the chief building official, and that's typically where a variance is requested. And if it's not within the code, then the chief building inspector doesn't have the authority to change that in any regard. If you're familiar with the application forms that are used, you'll see the reason why it can't be, the certificate, the building permit or certificate cannot be granted because it's outside the code. Then the matter comes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's based upon somebody bringing that request for the variance to this board. We cannot go to somebody and say, listen, you should have had a variance there. We don't have that power. That's an enforcement matter, and we're not an enforcing body.
I'm not asking you to enforce anything. I'm just asking you to try to get to the bottom of the story. You have the right, the legal right, to subpoena witnesses to find out why that zoning
if there's something
was not requested.
If there's something not, if there's something properly before us, we've got the right to subpoena somebody, but we don't have anything before us. We have no request from anybody who has the right to an appeal, and I will tell you quite frankly, I'm a big fan of any member of the public coming into any meeting and voicing an opinion, but there's got to be a proper forum for it, and I don't see that. I don't see that.
I understand that, sir. What would you, Rob Karras told me that this is the proper forum. He is the one that advised me to come here. It's not before, he said, because city council can't do anything. It belongs before BZA. Who would you recommend that I go before? Where do I go from here when the city administration is violating the law?
Well, if that's your opinion.
It's not an opinion. Even in their letter, they admit.
Well, if whatever the case is, I will tell you that this board was not approached at any time on
Yes, I know.
anything relative to the library project.
I know that.
We had no information, there was no request for a variance, we had no,
Well, there was
We
an
wouldn't have-
actual architect that built the first part
Yeah.
of the project in 2002, 2003. You now have a landscaper on the second part. Even on his applications, he put down the wrong zoning on his application and did not ask for a variance. The original architect, years ago, it's been 20 years ago, did request a variance for parking spaces, never asked for conditional or anything else. There was never a conditional permit issued for this. As it is, it must be done. Where do I go for relief,
well,
besides an attorney?
I think that that's your avenue, and I'm not giving legal advice, okay?
I understand.
That's another thing that we're not empowered to do, okay? If it's your belief that city officials or whoever
library and the
viol-
contractors.
and the library, then I think your recourse has to be with counsel or the advice of counsel on whether or not you have standing to bring an action. We're not an
This is not
adjudicatory.
what I want. I don't want to sue my neighbors, I don't want to sue my city, but if I can't get relief through the city, I guess I'm unclear on the ordinance that says BZA has the ability to call and subpoena witnesses.
We absolutely do, but that's got to be something that's within our jurisdiction. We can't take something out of the air from some.
Brought before us, what I think you're saying is, if it was brought before us.
So if Bob,
It was
as a
never
member
brought
of
before
the
us.
planning commission, does not bring before you that they violated ordinances, you can't do anything about it?
We're not by ordinance empowered to do that. You know, and I tried to make that clear in my email to you back on,
You asked me
June
to send,
13th.
you asked me to send to you the ordinances that give you that
Right,
power.
and
That
I-
was the ordinance, that
I-
you can subpoena witnesses. I
yeah.
understand there's no
Well,
enforcement.
let me give an example, and I don't want to hog the discussion here, but let me give
No,
an
no,
example.
please, I appreciate your advice on this.
Let's say that somebody was coming in for a variance, and there was opposition from a neighbor or from a business or whatever, that, for example, there was going to be toxic waste resulting as a result of the variance request with landscaping or whatever. If we wanted to subpoena the city engineer or an independent engineer to determine whether or not there was a toxic waste problem, we absolutely have the power to bring somebody in. But the request has to be before us. It's got to be within our jurisdiction. If there's no request before us, we're not empowered to act.
No, this
and-
is the third body that I've been in front of in the city of Ravenna.
And I-
Planning Commission, City Council, now BZA. So basically, what I'm being told is the city of Ravenna and people that they like can violate all the ordinances they want, and nothing happens.
Well,
Isn't that true?
I can't speak to that because we weren't in on any of that. You know, there wasn't anything before us to act on or not to act on.
No, I understand.
And that still remains.
Do you have the advice as how I can get something before you to act on? How do we do that? I can't force the library
You'd have to
to ask for a variance. They're not going to because they see the result.
Well,
Nothing's
you'd have
happening.
to
I can't
change.
force the two contractors involved here, the designer and the contractor, to get a variance because
For-
nothing's happening to you and there are no consequences. I
For-
can't force the city to ask for a variance. There are no consequences.
Well, it would be the library that would be asking for the variance. The city wouldn't be doing that.
The City Planning Commission approved this, knowing, I believe, knowing, because of the people that have been on the BZA being on the Planning Commission, approving it, knowing that they were breaking ordinances.
Well, I can't speak to that.
I know, I understand.
And I appreciate,
No,
your-
I appreciate that your hands are tied.
and I appreciate the effort that you put through this. You've supplied us with packets of information, and I
Yeah,
am
you can check
confident
your-
that
You can check the variances that are listed there that are allowed and that are not, and look at the plan that they put in, and then look at what they actually build out there. It's even worse, so.
I can appreciate your point of
And
view on
this has
things.
been since, what is it? We're looking over 12 months. I've been chasing this. and I've been telling the city, I do not want to sue the city. I live here. I'm a citizen. I am a team player. I've passed the ball to the city many times, and they throw it out of bounds or throw it away.
Well,
Thank you for your time.
well, thank you for coming, and as I've indicated, any member, any citizen in this town is welcome before this board for whatever reason, but,
Thank you. I
but we're limited on what can and cannot be done,
And
and
that
I
is
hope that you
shameful.
appreciate that.
It's really shameful.
Yeah, you have to come up to the mic and identify yourself again.
Okay, I just want to say as a fellow, E. Francis, 558 Coleman Avenue. I just want to say the little bit I know that you have a beautiful property, and like Eric Trump spoke, I am sorry for this experience. And I hope that there's a resolution for you. Because we've driven that, because I needed to feel it and experience, because I've heard about this frustration, and it is a viable problem. You have a beautiful property, and I'm so sorry.
Sir, if you want to.
My name is Jim Magella. I live at 418 Oak Manor Drive. And in the past, I was part of the team that put in the $11 million warehouse at the GE plant. And we had to go in front of the city, every committee, with 4 sets of drawings. We had to sit down, I think at that time it was Mark Bowen and the engineering group, and explain everything we were going to do step by step, including where the roof drainage was going to go, and explain how we were going to address all that stuff. Even before we had a appearance in front of the city council and explained it again. But it was management team from GE and the architects were with us. Now you're saying the contractors are contractors. The contractors are only building what they were told to build off the prints. It starts with the architects looking up what the codes are, what the variances are, and all that stuff, and getting it on that first set of drawings so you guys can review it. So somewhere there was a step missed on the variances. And somewhere someone didn't pass the ball the right way. And I know what we went through, and it was like a month with you guys talking about it. So just history that give you some insight on what it's like to do a permit through the city.
Well, I understand that, and there's reasons for that, to go through that process.
Well,
But we're only one cog in that process.
I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just
Okay.
saying, I've been through this experience, and somewhere there was a right turn instead of a left turn, and something was missed.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the public? Anything from the board?
Just briefly, I understand the mission you're on, your displeasure with the whole project, but I've been on this board for what, over 10 years
Oh, yeah.
at least?
Yeah, I've been on for
Prime
15.
example of what we do 100% of the time was presented in front of everybody in this room today. Fences, sheds, sidewalk, you need an extra foot or two here, yeah, here we are. None of these things that are brought up were ever presented to me or anything. I've never been here where a case like this, where we had to go back and say, well, you didn't come to us, so we're gonna help you. I don't see where that's possible. And coming from a legal advice right here, I'll have to go along with that. And again, I apologize that, but it's not our place to do that. I mean, everything we've ever done here is to help people. You need this, you need that. Sure, we've turned some things that were pretty out of the way and turned it down, and they adjusted. But in this case, I think we got a whole different animal to look at.
Anything else? from- Anything else from anybody?
Well, it's
Public
my
or board?
understanding, just to comment, that Rob Karras told told Mrs. Miller to come to the zoning board to present her case so that she has documentation of which variances or city laws were not followed. She's just looking for relief in that sense. And we understand that, because I've been on the board a long time also, that we cannot enforce anything per se. So what the recourse is, I don't know, but at least you've got it on the record that you're not happy with what's occurred and why it's occurred and which variances and city rules had been broken or misplaced. And that's what Tiffany's writing down right now.
Well, I don't know what was said by Rob Karras to who.
I don't know either. I'm just what
We
was
weren't
stated.
there. But I do know that Rob Karras is not an attorney. He's president of council.
Right.
And if there would have been some direction that way, I would presume that would come from the law director. Those are a lot of presumptions, but.
The problem the law director has is he's chairman of the library board and also the law director, so you kind of wearing two hats there, so it would be hard for him to give any advice, in my opinion. Or it would be questionable.
Those are other things that council dealt with a month or two ago. And again, that's not in our wheelhouse.
From an enforcement standpoint, that's true. I agree with that.
Okay.
But at least she's,
Sure.
The future. City council did try within their ability to help. They tried to hire an attorney to look at this, passed an ordinance to that effect, and 2 days later, the mayor, again, part of the administration, vetoed that ordinance and then went out of town for 3 weeks. So again, this is just part of the frustration.
that was city council.
That was
did
city
that.
council.
So they voted to
City council voted to hire an outside attorney,
an unbiased.
unbiased outside attorney, to take a look at these ordinances. The mayor vetoed it. He said we're basically looking at too many ordinances. He wanted to look at one ordinance, not all the ones that were broken. He vetoed it. And so far, city council has not come back with another proposal. The mayor wants them to rewrite the ordinance to narrow the focus. Whether that'll happen or not, I don't know. I think it's a rare thing for a mayor to veto an ordinance, and I think he basically scared everyone.
Well,
That's my opinion.
and my only comment to that is that that's an action of council and the mayor, and we don't tell the
Well,
mayor
that
or
wasn't-
council what to do because we don't have the power to do
The
it.
Board of Zoning Appeals did not hear that part, but I wanted them to hear that as well. And again, no, you haven't dealt with this before. That doesn't mean it's not within your purview. It is. Variances, the original library project in 2000, 2003, that architect actually came to BZA and got a variance for those parking places back there. So you have had big projects,
Yeah,
just not lately.
but those were formal appeals filed in the
Formal
proper
appeals.
way,
Yes,
and
Yes,
whether
they were.
proper, improper, missteps or
they were
whatever.
proper. That
Well,
architect followed.
I understand
the
that,
law.
and
He did.
like Mr. Portcase indicated to you, we hear variances every month.
Yeah. This is
But
the
those are
first
brought
BZA
because somebody has filed an application for a building permit or a conditional zoning permit or whatever it might be, and then based upon whether they agree with what the chief building officer has done or not, they file the appeal, it's brought here, we vote on it, it's done. If there's a dispute as far as an administrative decision, there's recourse through the courts.
Yes. And
Where that
the-
happens,
the
but that's
courts-
not,
the
we're
I
not,
understand, it just doesn't seem fair. The city of Ravenna or the BZA or the planning commission or Bob Finney or the mayor or the library have paid attorneys. I have to pay my own out of money I've earned. It just does not seem fair.
understood.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other business, anything we had coming up, we're aware of for next month or anything? Not at this point? Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Ken, second. Larry? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming.
We made it.
Next meeting will be, maybe,
When will it be?
the end of August. August 27th.
August 27th? Tim, did you say August 27th?
7th, yeah.
August 7th.
August 27th,
Oh, 27.
if we have anything to do. Thank you for doing double duty tonight.
How long you been here? How long you been here? No, I mean like today.
Oh, since like 5:30.